Okay, the time now is 3 p.m. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. So, welcome to the first Malaysian Corpus and Applied Linguistics webinar of the year 2023, organized by MCRN or Malaysian Corpus Research Network. Okay, so I am Raihana binti Abu Hassan from University Technology Petronas, and I will be the moderator for this webinar. So today we bring you two speakers, okay, who will be sharing about their work on corpus analysis. But before that, okay, for the benefit of those who are first time attending this webinar, let me give just a brief background about this webinar series, of which, today's webinar you are attending is a part of. So the purpose of MCRN is to connect like-minded people who are passionate about corpus linguistics, or maybe some of us are those who don't want to be left behind in this, digitally propelled world. So what better way to connect with each other than to gather virtually in informative sessions like this one, okay? So that we can learn what other people are doing as well. So we started this webinar series in 2020. So if you're curious about the talks and sharings that we've had so far, okay, do head over to our YouTube channel. So we've uploaded the previous webinars there. So let me share the links to our social media in the chat right now. Okay, one moment. Okay, so with these links, feel free to bookmark them for future reference. So for your information, this webinar series, for this year 2023, they are done on a bi-monthly basis. So that means it'll be in February, April, June, August, and so on. Let's see. So now let's move on to the main event of the webinar. For today, we have two speakers. Okay, we have two speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Yating. So Dr. Yating is a postdoctoral research fellow in the Department of English and Communication, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and she is a member of the Research Center for Professional Communication in English. Okay, so her research interests are in corpus-assisted discourse studies, critical discourse analysis, and gender studies. She has previously published in SSCI index journals such as the Asian Studies Review, Feminist Media Studies, and also Social Semiotics. So may I invite Dr. Yating to start your presentation? Over to you, Dr. Yating.
Yes, thank you, Rihanna. You can see my PPT, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rihanna. You are so helpful and supportive. Okay, let me enlarge my PPT. Okay, I believe I have 1 hour for my section, but I don't think I will talk too long because I want to chat with the audience and also the members in the group. And most of you specialize in corpus linguistics. So I want to hear more from you, okay? So, so today my topic, as you could see, is media representation of China amid COVID-19.
Sorry, Dr. Yating, I think you are muted.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me start over again. I was just saying that thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to give a talk today. And I believe most of you are specialized in corpus linguistic or other fields of linguistics. So I have 1 hour for my section, but I will not talk too much because I want to hear more from you guys. And I want to learn from you as well, right? So as you can see today, my topic is media representations of China amid COVID-19. A corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis. And you can just call me Tiffany. All right, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so first of all, I need to acknowledge that this paper, the presentation comes from a paper that just got recently accepted in Media International Australia. And I think the reviewer's comment is so helpful because and I could know who the reviewer is. He's the top, the top scholar in their field of corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis, and he has given me like more than 7,000 words on my paper. Yeah, more than 7,000 words. And that was during Chinese Spring New Year, I think 1 month ago. So I used all my Spring New Year holiday to revise the paper. So yeah, I'm really thankful to him. And also I look forward to some comments from you guys today, and so that we can learn from each other, right? So first of all, the background, COVID-19. Well, I guess I don't need to talk too much about it because we have lived with it for more than 3 years, and COVID-19 was first detected in Wuhan, China in December 2019. And on March 11, 2020, it was classified as a pandemic by the World Health Organization. And with the increasing global death toll, COVID-19 has brought enormous impact on social order, created fears among people, and heightened diplomatic tensions within and between different nations. Take me, for example, I haven't been home for more than 3 years. I haven't seen my family for more than 3 years because of COVID-19. I'm in Hong Kong now, and my family are in mainland China. Yeah, so it really influenced our lives. So the literature review and the research niche. I think the reason why we do literature review is because we want to know what people have done in the past, and then we review what they have done and then say what they haven't done and find out the research gap or research niche. And then we will argue that, okay, our paper will fill in this research gap. So that is the significance or impact of our papers, right? So that's what I need to do first in the paper. So I review the studies, and I find that a rising number of studies have investigated how the COVID-19 outbreak has been reported in the media globally. However, Chinese media outlets' coverage of the COVID-19 outbreak has garnered less international attention than that of their Western counterparts, despite greater media attention. And this study employs corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis to investigate how China is linguistically represented in a state-run English news media. And I have a comment here because my research gap was not this before. I remember that my research gap is saying that people have studied the media representation of COVID-19, but then the studies, they tend to examine very small data size, you know, using qualitative analysis. And then I argued that, okay, my paper use a corpus approach. I look at more data, right? And then the reviewer, you know, the scholar, I know who is, he said that, well, that's not your argument. You cannot say that because people look at a small data size and then you look at a bigger data size, then that is the research gap. He said, no, you cannot say that. And so that's why in my revised paper, I changed my research gap. And then he kind of suggested the research gap to me. He was saying that, like, okay, this situation has been investigated in Western countries, but not exactly in China. You as the insider should can provide more insightful perspectives on the representation of COVID-19 in China. And so I changed the research niche. Okay, so and then the research gap will lead to your research question. And that is why you do this research, right? So I have two research questions. The first one is, how is China linguistically represented in Xinhua News Agency? And second, what are the ideological implications of the linguistic representation in Xinhua News Agency? My apology, for any newspaper like Xinhua News Agency, we have to italicize it in our papers, okay? But I didn't do that in the PPT, okay? So for the data collection, I use Factiva, which is super helpful. Our library has subscribed to it, so you can just use Factiva and download news from all over the world, right? So a data set with 8,895 pieces of English language news was collected. And then the earliest one was released on February 11, 2020. And the last one was reported on November 19, 2021. And just please remember, when you are writing your paper, please tell the audience the time period of your data collection. You know, normally, the ending date could be the date when you collected the data, you know, and the early state could be the one that first appeared in your data size, unless you have set a time span already, right? You want to maybe look at a specific period because something happened during that period, then you can do that. But without setting the specific period, normally we will just say, okay, the first date was the date when the most relevant newspaper appeared, and then the last date was the date when I collected the data, right? So just make sure to write the time span. Okay, one of China's most influential, Xinhua News Agency is one of China's most influential state-sponsored news outlets, and its target audience, its target readerships includes international and domestic well-educated elites such as diplomats, journalists, and representatives of international organizations. And for analytical framework, I use corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis. Corpus linguistics introduces computational technology to help researchers quantitatively investigate large sets of empirical data. When CL methods are developed to build and analyze corpus with CDA framework, the methodology can be named as corpus CDA. And corpus-assisted CDA can arguably reduce researchers' bias based on their ideological agenda and diffuse cherry-picking charges. However, Baker indicates that we ought to be careful in overstating the ability of CL to reduce researchers' bias. Okay, about this point, I have something to comment because based on my interaction with my reviewer, at first, I didn't use CDA. I used PDA. I believe some audience might note PDA is short for positive discourse analysis, right? So, so positive discourse analysis was proposed by Jane Martin, and he was arguing that, the relationship between CDA and PDA is like yin and yang. In Chinese philosophy, we have the yin-yang balance, right? The men are the yang, and then the women are the yin, right? So Professor Jane Martin, he argued that, okay, CDA, is about criticizing and without, construction, and so he came up with the PDA perspective. So at first, in my paper, I wrote corpus-assisted positive discourse analysis, but then the reviewer doesn't like it. He doesn't like it, and I can see because I have read his papers before, and so and I knew it was him. It must be him. So I immediately cited him. I cited his paper and talking about corpus-assisted CDA, right? And then how to say? Because I have other papers going on as well about PDA. In one of my paper, use PDA, positive discourse analysis, and then the reviewer said that, okay, PDA, positive discourse analysis, but it doesn't mean that you are not critical. It doesn't mean that you don't criticize at all. So in that paper, in the end, we still criticize, we criticize the object, the object. And then, so yeah, so based on my experience with the reviewers, I think even you use PDA, you should still criticize, So back to this paper. So I was just talking about, even if you use corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis, but please don't overestimate the significance of corpus approach. Don't think that because you are using a corpus approach, because you are examining a large corpus, that your paper, your argument is objective. That's not true. That's not true at all. Well, if you are interested, I suggest you read Professor Paul Baker's paper, 2012. Okay, 2012. He said that very clearly. Okay, even if you are using a corpus approach, we are still not objective, right? So let's take a look. Paul Baker indicates that we ought to be careful in overstating the ability of CL to reduce the researcher's bias. Right. Let me see. Yeah. And so in my revised paper, I need to state very clearly what is my ideology and what are our ideologies together with my co-author in this paper. And so I stated very clearly that regarding researchers' ideological agenda and specific sociological concept in this study, we were guided by China's dominant diplomatic concept, building a community with a shared future for mankind, and its vision in global health governance, building a global community of health for all. Okay, so this is the ideology we take. If you are interested, you can also take a look at my papers. So these cited papers are mine, and also with my co-author's paper talking about the ideology, you know. So semantic paucity, collocation, and concordance. Okay, semantic paucity. So we use semantic paucity as our analytical unit to examine the paper, to examine the concordances. Okay, so semantic paucity, also known as discourse paucity, refers to a feature which extends over more than one unit in a linear string, or a consistent order of meaning with which a word is imbued by its collocates. And in order to quantify the linguistic patterns of discourse paucities on the term China, we use collocation and concordance techniques. And where am I? Techniques. Okay, next. And then, okay, after generating the collocates and then the concordances, and then I use Woldach's discourse historical approach, DHA, which is a CDA approach, right? So Woldach defined discourse paucities as more or less intentional plan of practices, including discursive practices, adopted in order to achieve a particular social, political, psychological, or linguistic goal. So discursive strategies are located at different levels of linguistic organization and complexity. All right, so 4 discursive strategies in DHA were found to be predominant in the adopted concordance analysis, and they are argumentation, intensification, or mitigation, nomination, predication, and also in the argumentation itself, it has different types of topos, right? It has different types of topoi, okay? So the topoi of authority, history, and numbers were found to legitimize the argument. So now it comes to our analytical procedures, okay? There are 2 analytical procedures. First, frequent collocates were generated using wordsmith 6. And then the span was set as 5 words, both on the left and right on the search term China. And other settings were the same as those in Scott. And the minimum frequency for words to be assessed was 100, as these words were the most dominant collocates consisting 71.6%. And then we only study lexical words, adjective, adverbs, lexical words, verbs and nouns related to China's national image and disregard grammatical words such as prepositions and conjunctions. This is because lexical words are the main carriers of information and contribute more to semantic contribution, semantic construction and communication. And for this slide, I have one comment. I think when you are writing your paper, you need to say it very clearly. What is the setting of your tool, such as wordsmith, ENCODE, etc. It's very important to write that down. And then for me, I normally just say, okay, I will use the setting as I will use the default setting, right? Then I don't need to explain too much, but you need to explain this, I think, right? Like the minimum frequency for words to be assessed was 100. I need to say it very clearly because the default setting is 2. 2 is the default setting, but then I set it to 100. And then I explain why 100. If you say it because it is the majority, right? It occupies the majority, like 70 or more than 70%, then you can have a good reason why your minimum frequency is 100, right? Sometimes I read some paper that they would just say that, okay, my paper examine 10 collocates, the top 10 collocates. But then I was thinking like, why top 10? Why were they significant? But were they the majority? Can they represent the whole corpus? So I think you need to figure out why your setting is like this, okay? And then analytical procedure, the second step. So after the frequent collocates were obtained, we then moved on to evaluate the semantic paucities on China using concordance analysis, where we analyze the concordant lines of these frequent collocates as informed by Wodak DHA. And subsequently, different types of semantic paucities were quantified and summarized to unveil their interplay and how they contributed to the discourses and sentiment surrounding China's national image in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. Right, so here are the results. And well, I will show you what is semantic paucity, and so that you have a clearer picture, right? So China is represented as a victim, a fighter, and a cooperative or supportive country in Xinhua News Agency. And these dominant representations have ideological implications for global solidarity and humanitarianism. I'm very, very thankful to the reviewer that I told you about, this professor. Because at first I used the word collectivism, Chinese collectivists. But then he corrected me. He said that you in your paper, in your context, I think you are saying global solidarity rather than collectivism. And I think he's right. So okay, and then I use his word, and then I look up the definition of global solidarity. It refers to people's responsibility around the world to help those who are victims of injustice and to address the underlying issues that cause these injustice. And then, okay, humanitarianism indicates the altruistic attitude of helping others. Okay, the first representation. China was represented as a victim, especially when the pandemic was first detected in Wuhan. And then three discourse paucities, including victim, other countries' assistance, and politicalization were intertwined with one another, contributing to the victim discourse. The discourse highlights that China is a victim of the pandemic and other countries try to rescue China from the crisis. It advocates not to politicize the pandemic and attack China as it is a victim. And here is the table, the semantic paucity, as you could see, 1, 2, and 3, right? And then they constitutes of, they constructed the representation, China as a victim. Okay, so here is the first discourse paucity. The victim discourse casts China in the role of a victim, which is evidenced by the victim discourse paucity, and frequent colloquies such as outbreak, hit, and spread are used to express the occurrence of the pandemic. So please take a look at this example. Please be noted that the search term China is bolded, and then the frequent collocates are italicized. Okay, so as you could see, China is bolded, and then outbreak as the frequent collocates is italicized. Okay, please take a look. Okay, so here in this example, Xinhua News Agency humanized COVID-19 in its use of the war metaphor, enemy, representing it as someone who needs to be attacked, making it more tangible and hateful to humankind. And then the second paucity, the other countries' assistance. When COVID-19 was only detected in China, many countries volunteered to help and provide firm support to China, indicating global solidarity and humanitarianism, which is evidenced by the other countries' assistance discourse paucity, based on frequent colloquies such as aid, assistance, and donation. Please take a look at the example. So here in this example, Xinhua News Agency drew on the voices of world leaders such as Canada's Prime Minister, who volunteered to provide assistance to China. And then the last discourse paucity is politicalization. The victim discourse denounces any politicalization of the pandemic, which is like victim blaming, making the pandemic situations of millions of people dying worse, and consequently hurting the victim China without mercy. It is evidenced by the politicalization discourse paucity based on frequent colloquies such as accountable, political, and virus. Please take a look at this example. Xinhua News Agency in this example used the anti-China political virus to characterize the nature of the politicians' certain action, amplifying the danger of their actions in attacking China, reflected in the frequent collocates, political and virus. And then the next representation is China as a fighter. Three discourse processes, including action on tackling COVID-19, recovering the economy, and priority, are intertwined with one another, contributing to the fighter discourse. China was represented as a fighter against the pandemic, highlighting China took measures to minimize its impact on humankind and economy and prioritize people's safety and health. So here is the table. The action on attacking China, COVID-19, discourse paucity. So China's efforts were highlighting in Xinhua News Agency, which are evidenced by the action on tackling COVID-19 discourse paucity based on frequent collocates such as controlled, effort, and fight. Please take a look at this example. So in this example, the handling of the pandemic is represented in a war frame with metaphors such as fight and victory. And next one is about recovering the economy. Another prominent discourse paucity which shows China's efforts in recovering its economy is the recovering the economy one, based on frequent collocates such as business, company, and recovery. Please take a look at this example. Frequent collocates such as recover and recovery were used to evaluate in reviving its economy by taking various measures. China's actions in this example explain why China recover its economy so quickly. The full name of the speaker, as well as her position, title, and institution name, can strengthen the illocutionary force via the topos of authority. And the last, discourse paucity. China's top priority in fighting the pandemic war is people's safety and health, which is evidenced by the priority discourse paucity based on two frequent collocates, people's and top. Please take a look at this example. As this example indicates, China has adopted hardcore prevention and control measures such as the dynamic zero COVID-19 policy, built several temporary hospitals within a short period of time, and launched different vaccination programs to approve the emergency use of vaccine to achieve its people first measure to contain and tackle the pandemic. The last representation, China was also represented as a cooperative and supportive country. This occurs at a later stage after China has successfully put the pandemic under control. Three discourse paucity, including China's assistant emphasis on cooperation and China's global chasing, are intertwined with one another, contributing to this cooperation discourse. This discourse highlights that China is a cooperative and supportive country which assists the international community when they are in need, and emphasizes cooperation and actively participates in global chasing. So here is the table. I'm sorry that the table might be too small for you guys. If you want to see it, you can email me. And the paper is not officially published yet. Wait till we get official published. If you are interested in reading the paper, you can email me. Yeah. Okay, the first discourse paucity. China's humanitarian assistance was reported by Xinhua News Agency, which is evidenced by the China's assistance discourse paucity based on frequent colloquies such as support, donate, and assistance. Please take a look at this example. Frequent colloquies such as provide and send have illustrated China's supportive role, a predication strategy to highlight China's assistance to other countries by sending them medical supplies, vaccine, and expert teams. So as you can see, the underlying phrases in the example are predication strategy. So basically, they are verb. They are verbal phrases. Yeah, they are verbal phrases, as you can see. Statistics such as 2 billion and 100 million are also used to amplify China's assistance to other countries via the totals of numbers. Okay, if you see the numbers, they are basically totals of numbers. Okay, not the last yet. Okay, the next discourse paucity. China's cooperative efforts were highlighted by Xinhua News Agency, indicating global solidarity, which is evidenced by the emphasis on cooperation, discourse paucity based on frequent colloquies such as relations, friendships, and solidarity. Please take a look at this example. China's emphasis on cooperation is manifested by the frequent colloquies of China international cooperation in this example. And then the last discourse paucity, Xinhua News Agency also reported China's active participation in global chasing into the origin of COVID-19, which is evidenced by the China's global chasing discourse paucity based on frequent colloquies such as global information and data. Please take a look at this example. Release and share are frequent colloquies that describe China's action in sharing information for global chasing, fulfilling the function of predication. The verbal phrase release, the detailed timeline in example 18 is a good example. So discussion and conclusion. This study has used a corpus-assisted CDA to examine the linguistic representation of China amid a global health crisis and their ideological implications in Xinhua News Agency. The representations of China as a victim, a fighter, and a cooperative, supportive country are found to be predominant, working in tandem to shape the national image of China. These dominant representations have ideological implications for both global solidarity and humanitarianism, intertwined with wider discursive context. Regarding the ideological aspect, the media representation of China's national image amid COVID-19 have echoed China's dominant diplomatic concept, building a community with a shared future for mankind, and its vision in global health governance, building a global health community of health for all, highlighting global solidarity and humanitarianism. Despite their differences from the traditional model of nation-state governance that emphasize competition and a zero-sum mentality, China's success in putting the pandemic under control has proven that these concepts to be useful. Amid the emergence of COVID-19 in some cities, China employed the dynamic zero COVID policy, which is very different from the Western coexistence approach. Regarding the discursive context, Xinhua News Agency is a state-run news media that serves to communicate China's message to the world. The projected image is what Beijing would like the audience or readers to perceive and even accept during different periods of time amid a global health crisis when COVID-19 was first detected in China. The Xinhua News Agency is one of the best channels for China, along with the spokespersons of China Ministry of Foreign Affairs to shape its national image. The main purpose of Chinese English language newspaper or news magazines is for foreigners to know about China's policy and study China's political situation and development trends. Xinhua News Agency has evolved in tandem with its shift in the strategic diplomacy from cautious and low profile to assertive and proactive. And here are some implications. Let me see the time. I will try to make it very short because we have a very limited time for Q&A. So basically, implication and limitations, right? I think I will skip this slide because we do not have much time. Okay, so here are the selected references. Here are some relevant publications. If you want to read it, you can email me and I can send it to you. And then here is my WeChat QR code. Please feel free to add my WeChat QR code, and then we can communicate more on WeChat. And here is my email as well. And I thank you so much for your time and attention. And I welcome any questions and comments. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much to Dr. Yating And yes, we can start the Q&A session, although there are questions lining up to be answered by you. The first one posted in the chat is by Wang Bengyu. So for data collection, okay, Dr. Yating, do you differentiate between news title and its content? And if not, will the data be repetitive and the frequency be biased? So it's about, title and content.
Oh, okay. So okay. If I didn't get the question correctly, please correct me. You were asking like, how did I collect the articles, right? Did I distinguish the titles and the and the content? Well, I think in Factiva, you can select, for example, you can choose newspapers. I search some keywords, for example, COVID-19 and China. These are my keywords. I can select whether the keywords only appear in the title and the lead, or I can choose to select those who have these keywords in the whole article. So for me personally, I normally collect news articles with these keywords appearing in the title and the lead, because that can indicate that these keywords are the main content of the news articles. So I suggest, you only collect the articles with these keywords appearing in the title or the leads, and you can select that in Factiva. It has a function. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the next question by Wang is the analysis of prosody and DHA in a linear manner?
Linear manner, yeah.
And will the prosody analysis result advice on later DHA interpretation?
I didn't get your second question, but please let me answer your first question first. So one is asking, will the is that in a linear manner? Yes, it is in a linear manner. First, I need to use the corpus approach, the corpus techniques to get the frequent collocates. After having the frequent collocates, then I generate the concordances. Okay, the concordances, Okay, and then the third step, the last step is to analyze the concordances with the words, China as the search term and its frequent collocates. So at this stage, then I will use DHA. I will use DHA discourse, the DHA framework to analyze the concordances. Yeah, it's in a linear manner. And please, what is your second question?
I think it's about, will the prosody analysis results advise on later DHA interpretation?
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a very good question. It's like asking you whether your data, your analysis will help to revise the framework. Okay, this is a good question, and also discussed with other professors before. To be honest, of course, every data will not stick to the framework 100%. So every time when I use a CDA framework, I will modify the framework, and I will say in the paper, I said, okay, this is the modified version of the original framework based on my own data, right? You cannot use my modified version because your data will be different and you will have a different modified version. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think someone raised their hand.
Yeah, so maybe we can go to Abdul Hakim first.
Yeah.
He also asked for your email address, but I think you've shared it just now, right?
Yeah, I shared that.
So Abdul Hakim, you can, give your question.
Afternoon, good morning. It's morning in Nigeria. Thank you, Dr. Yating, for your educative presentation.
Yes.
I have two. The first one is concerning the corpus building. I know news papers come with images, graphs, and other visuals or presentations. How did you go about cleaning the data? I don't know whether I'm audible.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. How do I clean the data?
Yeah, all these unwanted visuals. That is my first question. Then the second question, I had you saying, if I go to right, that you considered all occurrences, all 100 occurrences as, dominant frequencies. Why? As in, is there any methodological support in the past literatures explaining why 100 occurrences is considered as the most, dominant frequency? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me answer your first question. Did I clean my data? Yeah, of course. I think you have to clean your data, especially you need to delete those that are repeated, because in news, in corpus, in the news, they always repeat the same news again and again and again. So you need to clean the news. I did that in my, I wrote something about that in one of my paper. And then, in one of my paper, you can, you can email me. I can send it to you. I learned that from Professor Paul Baker in Lancaster University. He taught us how to clean the repetitive articles. And then, well, he was like saying that you can use Wordsmith and then check. I forgot, I don't know how to say it, but I can send you my paper. And then the second question is about like 100%. Well, I think I said it very clearly in my presentation. If I can share it again, I say it very clearly. You have to explain how many frequencies, right? And I chose 100 not because of someone said that I have to choose 100. It's because 100 can give me a manageable data set, right? Because 100 occurrences that can generate the color case that occupied more than 70%. So that is the majority. So that's why I choose 100%. But having said that, I think is it Sinclair? Is the minimum. So you have to examine the frequency one time, so you cannot call it frequent color case, right? It has to be at least 2 times. And for me, I chose 100 is because it occupies the majority of the frequent color case, and it gives me a manageable data set. And if you want to know more about Sinclair's paper about the frequencies of 2 times, well, you can email me and I can send you my paper, because I talked about that before in one of my paper about Sinclair's. Yeah, thank you. I cannot find it, but never mind. I think you get my point. I will stop sharing screen. Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Sorry. Okay, all right. So we actually have 1 minute left for your session, but I think maybe we could take one last question. It's by Annie here. So what she asked was, how did you combine discourse prosody with DHA discursive strategies systematically? Because she said you mentioned topos a few times, but most of the analysis was on collocates and their concordances. So, you know, she asked about whether you calculated the frequency of different discursive strategies and such.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. And we were talking about there are 3 steps, right? And I said that only at the last step, when I was analyzing the concordances, then I analyzed the collocates, right? Then, for example, when I analyzed the concordances, and then I said, okay, here is the topos of frequency. I forgot the name. So that means, okay, it used a lot of numbers. It's like, okay, China donated 1 million vaccines to country, and then you can see 1,000, you know, you can see the word, or China sent 1,000 medical doctors to this country. You know, it used a lot of numbers in the concordance. Then I would say, okay, in this example, we can see it is using this strategy, you know. So yeah, so that's the last step. Thank you so much for your question. You can email me. You can email me for if you want to take a look. But after it got published, then I will send it to you. And last but not least, I want to thank you for this group so much. I think it's so professional. It's the most professional group, research group I have ever seen, because I was invited to other talk as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yating. To Ika, who asked a question, unfortunately, we don't have time, but I think Dr. Yating would, you know, be happy to take your questions personally as well, okay? So do email her.